We're starting in 5 minutes. We're just waiting for those dialing in from the UK. A pleasant morning. To those calling from the Philippines, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our webinar today on exporting medical devices to the Philippine market. I am Rana, the project manager of the Overseas Business Network Initiative of the British Chamber. We are the delivery partner of the British Embassy Manila in providing trade support or business support services to British companies that are keen to export or do business in the Philippines. Indeed, the Philippine medical device sector is one of the most vibrant industries in the country with a growth rate of 8 to 9%. In our interactions with British companies, we have been receiving a number of queries from UK SMEs inquiring about exporting their medical device products to the country or in finding local partners. And hence, for the rationale of the webinar today, we'd like to inform you more about the regulatory requirements as well as the potential of the industry for your medical device products. We have invited two expert speakers today, and I have the privilege of introducing them. Our first speaker will talk about the Philippine Medical Device Regulatory System. She is the Division Chief, Center for Device Regulation, Radiation Health and Research of the Food and Drug Administration under the Department of Health. We have Engineer Maria Cecilia Matienzo. Our second speaker will talk about market overview and opportunities for medical device exporters. He has been a supportive partner of the British Chamber in our other activities or projects. He is the Medical Director of the Group Business Unit and the Group Business Unit Director of Agency and Medical Marketing, Commercialization Business of Pharma Holdings Limited. We have Dr. Joel D. Javier. Before I hand you over to our speakers, I'd like to remind you all that we'll have a question and answer later on. Feel free to send your questions to the chat area, chat room, which is on your screen. Then we're more than happy to refer them to our expert speakers. At this point, I'll hand you over now to our first speaker. We have with us Engineer Maria Cecilia Matienzo from the FDA. Engineer Cecilia.
Okay, good afternoon. Is it good afternoon or good morning to everybody?
Both.
On both, okay. For this afternoon, I will be discussing the Philippine Medical Device Regulatory System so that you could better understand what's going on in the Philippines in terms of medical devices. Next slide, please. Okay. The topics for discussion for this afternoon will be the definition of medical devices, the different regulatory controls that we are having here in the Philippines, and the future direction with the implementation of the ASEAN Medical Device Directive. Next slide, please. Okay. As we could see in this diagram, we have different medical devices. So this is from a simple tongue depressor to an MRI machine, and we have some blood collection tubes and pregnancy test kits and condoms in this picture. So in the Philippines, we are using the definition of medical devices, which is a harmonized definition as included in the ASEAN Medical Device Directive. Next slide, please. Okay. Based on the AMDD, medical device is an instrument, apparatus, implement machine, appliance, implant, in vitro reagent, calibrator, software, material, or other similar or related article that are intended by the manufacturer to be used alone or in combination for human beings for one or more of the following specific purposes. First is for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, or alleviation of disease. Second is for the diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, alleviation of or compensation for an injury. It is also the one that is used for investigation, replacement, modification, or support of the anatomy or of a physiology process. These are also for supporting or sustaining life, control of consumption, disinfection of medical devices, and providing information for medical or diagnostic purposes by means of in vitro examination of the specimens derived from the human body, and which does not achieve its primary intended action in or in the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but which may be assisted in its intended functions by such means. So this is a very, very long definition of medical device. And this is the harmonized definition that we will be using, or we are presently using in the regulation of medical devices to identify which products are considered medical devices and which products are considered not a medical device. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. In the Philippines, we have 3 regulatory controls. First is the LTO, or the license to operate, after which you need to secure a certificate of product registration, and this will be followed by the food market surveillance, or what we call the PMS. Next slide, please. Now, for the licensing of medical devices, we have 2 main classification of medical device establishments. One is the distributor, and the other one is the manufacturer. Next slide, please. Now, for the distributor, we have this the importer, the wholesaler, exporter, or retailer. And for the manufacturers, under these categories are the manufacturer is the trader. When we say trader, these are equivalent to the internationally known terminology of legal manufacturer, or the owner of the design of the product, and the repacker. Because here in the Philippines, there are companies who are importing their products in bulk, and the repacking in accordance with the required sizes or are being repacked here in the Philippines. Okay. Next slide. Now, before you do anything, or before you do business pertaining to medical devices, first you need to secure a license to operate. So the license to operate is only for our local medical device establishments. And the requirements are stipulated under Administrative Order number 2016-003, which is dated February 2016. So this administrative order contains the guidelines on the unified licensing requirements and procedures of the Food and Drug Administration. As a backgrounder, the FDA of the Philippines have 4 main centers, which are the Center for Food, Center for Drugs, Center for Devices, and Center for Cosmetics. And all of these centers requires all the establishments selling this product to secure a license to operate. So all these 4 centers have agreed to have a unified licensing. Thus, we issued administrative orders covering the unified licensing requirements and procedures of all these establishments. To guide you on the requirements of the license to operate, the unified licensing is applicable to the manufacturers, traders, and distributors of all the food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, in vitro diagnostic devices, reagents, household urban pesticide, toys, and child care articles. And it is also being implemented for drugstores, pharmacies or hospitals, and retail outlets for non-prescription drugs. Now, for the requirements for initial application, so we have already reduced the requirements for the initial application for this unified licensing. One of the main features of the unified licensing is that for distributor or importers, wholesalers of medical devices, there will be no more pre-inspection prior to the issuance of the license. So, however, for manufacturers of medical devices, we still require a pre-inspection prior to the issuance of the LTO. Now, there are only 5 main requirements of, for the application for initial license to operate. One is our application form, in which I will discuss a little bit in detail because there are more requirements into that. The proof of business name registration, which is usually issued by our Department of Trade and Industry, if you are a single proprietor, or the FTC, the Security Exchange Commission for corporations, for associations, or other organizations. We have this text master file, which is only applicable for the manufacturers of drugs and devices and cosmetics. A new requirement is the risk management plan, which is still under process, under development for the requirements that we do only require at the moment for them to submit a commitment letter that they will do the risk management plan and have it ready during the renewal of their license to operate. And the payment, which is still at 4,000 pesos per year. Okay. So under the accomplished application form, there are 3 requirements. One is the declaration and undertaking of the responsibilities of the applicant as condition for processing and approval of the LTO. This is what we call the application form. And also included in this application form is the location map and the GPS coordinate of the establishment, together with the name of the qualified person per type of establishment and the relevant credential. If there are 4 exams required, you need to present the PRC ID or the Philippine Regulatory Commission ID that you passed the board exam, or if the required profession has no required board exam, they just need to present diploma to prove that they have already graduated from that certified course. Now, these are the only things that are required, and at this point in time, we have launched the ELTO, wherein all these requirements will just be keyed into a web-based system wherein companies are given passwords so that they could send the application through web. And this will not require any more signatures from our approving authority. However, there are security measures to indicate that the LTO that you will receive is the genuine one. Okay. Next slide, please. After the issuance of the LTO, there is what we call post-licensing inspection. So after the issuance, that's the only time we will be doing our inspection of the establishment. Even though the establishment are given an LTO, you have the right to either revoke or suspend the LTO if the company is found to be non-compliance with the requirements of the rules and regulations of the FDA. So there are lists in which I think you will have a copy of this presentation. These are just guides wherein these are the areas that we will look into during the inspection, which includes some further documentation pertaining to the list of medical devices that you will import. We need to see and verify the documents of your pharmacist, including the copy of the PRCID or the diploma. We also need to see the floor plan of the office. We will also look into that. Next slide, please. We will verify also the copy of, we will look into the original copy of your business name registration for verification, including the contract of lease of the space or the title of the land if it is owned by the company, and the different reference materials that will guide the company to comply with the rules and regulations of the FDA, which includes a copy of the laws and other regulatory references. Next slide, please. Okay, for importers of medical devices, you need also to have the foreign agency agreement, or which is called the distributorship agreement or an appointment letter for our local distributor, for your local distributor here in the Philippines. This document should be duly authenticated by the territorial Philippine consulate. And together with this, there should be an GMP certification issued by the government authority or a valid ISO certification for medical devices, which is now the ISO 13485. This is also should be duly authenticated by the Philippine territorial consulate. So all these documents should be available during the inspection. However, for wholesalers, there should only be the valid contract or a licensed distributor and a copy of the license of that distributor, plus a copy of the different certificate of product registration that they are distributing. Next slide, please. Now, for exporters, there should have a valid contract or agreement with the licensed supplier or the manufacturer, and the copy of the license to operate of that manufacturer, including the registration of the product that will be exported. For the local manufacturers, I will not be discussing this in detail. These are just guides for you to know if you have plans to manufacture devices here, because I know you are more interested in the requirements for the certificate of product registration, and I only have 15 minutes to discuss all these things with you. So these requirements for LTO as manufacturers, please do look into this one, and if you have questions or interested with this one, you could ask later. Next slide, please. For can we go straight to the slides for certificate of product registration? Okay, thank you. Now for the certificate of product registration, we just have the checklist, and we are still in the process of revising our existing checklist to adopt the Common Technical Dossier Template, which is the CSDT, Common Submission Dossier Template under the ASEAN Medical Device Directive. However, at present, we have two types of applications. Next slide, please. One is what we call the regular medical devices, and the other one is the in vitro diagnostic devices. Not all medical devices are required to be registered here in the Philippines. We have only a reference list of registrable medical devices, which consists of about 200 types, 8 of which are only in vitro diagnostic devices. So maybe I could provide later the host a copy of the list of registrable medical devices in the Philippines. However, with the approval of the new guidelines on the regulation of medical devices, all medical devices will now be registrable and will be classified into Class A, B, C, and D, which is also the harmonized classification of medical devices as stipulated in the ASEAN Medical Device Directive. Now, for the requirements of the CPR, I have divided it into two. Next slide, please. First one is the legal requirements, which are composed of 6 documents. One is the notarized application form, which is downloadable at the FDA website. Second is, number 2 is not included anymore. Number 3 is a copy of the valid license to operate of your distributor, importer here, or the local manufacturer. Next is the certificate of clearance or free sale certificate or registration approval of the product from the country of origin, issued by the health authority and duly authenticated by the territorial Philippine consulate for the imported product. However, if the country where the product is being manufactured is not selling the device and just a manufacturing site, you could submit a free sale certificate or registration approval on the country where it is being distributed, provided that it is issued by the health authority in that country. Another requirement is the ISO or GMP certification of the manufacturer, since we will not be doing any inspection of the manufacturers on site. So we will be relying on the GMP or ISO certificate, which is duly authenticated by our Philippine territorial. And the last legal document is your foreign agency agreement between the manufacturer and the importer, or by the principal or the legal manufacturer. So this is also should be authenticated by the territorial Philippine consulate. Next slide, please. The next set of requirements are the technical requirements for the registration of medical devices. First, we have the specific use and the direction or instruction for use of the device. The second technical requirements is the list of all the raw materials used as components of the product. Either it will be touching the skin or it will be entering the body orifice or not. Included in the list should be the technical specification of the raw material. It should be the technical specification of the raw material, which is comprises of either the physical, chemical, electrical, or mechanical specification, whichever is applicable to that particular raw material. Next is the discussion on the manufacturing procedures. This includes the different methods, the facilities, the control in the manufacture, the processing in the packaging of the product. So when we say the complete manufacturing cycle, it should start from the entry of the raw materials down to the packaging of the product. Now for the sterile product, you should include the sterilization standard parameters, the procedures, the validation protocol, and the result of the latest sterilization validation with the sterility test. Now, if the sterilization of the device was contracted out or is being contracted out, you need to submit a copy of the valid ISO certificate of that contracted sterilizing company. Next slide, please. Next technical requirement is now pertaining to the finished product. So these are the technical specifications and physical description of the finished product, which includes the functionality and performance tests, including the data and the results that are conducted on the finished product. Take note that we will not be requiring you to have the product tested here in the Philippines. So we are very reliant on this document. Also required are the test data and results of the biocompatibility test of the device, including the risk management, the risk analysis and control of the device. Next is the stability status of the product. The three trials are only applicable for in vitro diagnostic. However, for the regular medical device, this can only be at least for one lot or for one trial. And the study should be duly signed by the person who conducted the study. These are required to justify your clearance expiration date. If there is no expiration date, the company should submit a declaration from the manufacturer why the device has no expiration date. Next slide, please. Next is the labeling material for all sizes or the reference code to be used for the product. It should show the labeling for or the packaging for the immediate, secondary packaging, the box label, or whichever is applicable layers of labeling or packaging of the devices. The representative sample is not required anymore. This is already replaced by the picture of the product. When we say the picture of the product, this should be the product itself and not the product inside the packaging. When required, we do require the submission for, especially for high-risk medical device, for instance, for clinical studies. Okay? And the last requirement is the evidence of registration, fee or payment, or the official receipt. Next slide, please. Now for the timeline for the review and evaluation of technical documents for product registration is 180 calendar days. So this is the maximum period that we are projecting to evaluate your product, and if you comply with all the requirements, you will receive your certificate of product registration. However, if there are deficiencies in your technical documents or there are lacking documents, we will be issuing a notice of deficiency wherein we will be giving you 90 days to comply. If you were not able to comply with that specified period of time, we will give you a chance to reapply within 60 days. Okay, next slide. So now, at present, we are not just intensifying the post-market surveillance. However, we are projecting to require companies for mandatory reporting of all product reports and adverse events. We will also be conducting quality audits specifically for the local importers and manufacturers. However, if there is a need to conduct quality audits on the manufacturers outside the Philippines due to issues on the devices or the products that they are selling, we will be doing so. And also there will be compliance monitoring that will be conducted by our field regulatory officers down the region. So next slide, please. So that is my last slide. So that ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Cecil, for the very informative and comprehensive presentation. We will hold off the question and answer later after the second speaker. Once again, Engineer Cecil, thank you very much. Now we'll go to
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. May we ask you to stand by, Engineer, for the Q&A later. Now we will go to our second speaker, none other than Dr. Joel Javier, Medical Director of the Group Business Unit and the Group Business Unit Director, Agent in the Medical Marketing Commercialization Business of Pharma Holdings in the Philippines.
Well, good morning to you all. Just want to say hi in front of the camera, and then I move over to my slide deck. So, good morning, everyone. All right, so to start off the presentation, this is going to be a short presentation on medical devices and its potential here in the Philippines, as well as some backgrounder on the Philippine situation. The Philippine economy and healthcare agenda in the new government is quite different from the previous one. I'll just go through a few points. First of all, the inflation rate is still quite low. Currently, the projection is that the inflation rate for the country for the following year would be less than 2.3%. GDP growth is still strong at 7%, greater than 7% growth for next year. The healthcare agenda as defined by the current government is that hospitals will be required to have a facility for indigent patients, the government paying for the health services using the PhilHealth or the Universal Care Reserve funds, and these are taken from the sin tax revenues derived from the sale, the taxation of the sale of alcohol and tobacco products, and of course the budget of the health department. Government will establish a trust fund for the payment of expenses for citizens confined in the hospitals. Every barangay, or the smallest unit for community, will have one doctor. This is the thrust of the current government, and plays a position in the community. Number 4, government will sustainably push preventive health programs, so that's in line with having a doctor in every community unit. And they will be creating hospitals outside of Metro Manila, the greater Metro Manila area, and go to the south of the Philippines, which is Mindanao, the Visayas region. On healthcare funding, these are the words of our current president. He says that he will be committing earnings of the PAGCOR, which is the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, and give it to the government hospitals for the treatment and the hospitalization expenses of Filipinos. And the last one was the proposal to create the Drug Pricing Regulatory Board, which can be considered as an opportunity for companies entering the market. And of course, it's bad news for companies already in the Philippines. There's strong Philippine macroeconomic fundamentals, which is a holdover from the previous administrations, plural. There's a perceived instability or instability at the start of this new administration, but it's slowly stabilizing. Key focus areas for this current administration would be drugs and criminality and corruption in government. There's also focus on key industries such as mining. The traffic is something they want to work on for the population because of the horrendous traffic situation here, especially in the greater Metro Manila area. And labor reforms is also on the priority list of the current government. The healthcare agenda, launched recently, focuses on patient access, integration, and universal healthcare, as well as primary healthcare. Okay, there have been a few tense moments for U.S. and Philippine relations when our beloved president started cursing Mr. Obama. But that's, I think, all forgiven now. But it has had a deleterious effect on our currency. I think that's largely driven by the bullish U.S. market because of Mr. Trump's victory. There's been a decline in the value of the peso against the dollar. 2 months ago, it was 46 to 1 US dollar, 46 pesos to 1 US dollar. Today it stands at closer to 51. So it's been a roller coaster ride. Universal health care, unfortunately, is not yet universal. 56% of the expenditure is still out-of-pocket expenses. Then there's also a low doctor specialty to patient ratio. There's also a lack of infrastructure for basic diagnostics and for primary care, but these are to be prioritized by the current government. Okay, the healthcare agenda now, these are the industry developments, so from government now to industry. There have been a couple of large corporations now investing in hospitals as well as the acquisition of retail drugstore chains. For example, Ayala Group is one of the biggest retail chains and real estate property companies in the Philippines, and they have invested in, they have purchased majority share of chain drugstore. Unilab, which is the biggest pharmaceutical company in the Philippines, has invested into buying hospitals as well as generics pharmacy for the spread of their products. So there have also been other companies, smaller companies like M. Louvillier, which is a pawn shop company. They do private loans, and they've invested also in a partnership with Ambica, which is a drug trader, pharmaceutical drug trader in the Philippines. So the key access points in the Philippines, as mentioned previously, 56% of all healthcare expenditures are still driven by out-of-pocket. The doctors, as mentioned, there is a poor doctor-specialist ratio to the population. For example, there's one cardiologist for every 22,000 Filipinos. For an OBGYN, it would be one OBGYN per 3,300 Filipinos, etc., etc. The access points are still, for at least for pharmaceutical healthcare, would be chain drugstores, hospital pharmacies, independent drugstores, and other retailers. The trend here is still that the patients, a majority of the patients, pay out of pocket, and that the first sign of any illness, they would still self-medicate prior to seeing a physician. Okay, going on to the medical industry proper, I present to you some data which is IMS based, so that you can reference these numbers against the syndicated data. So there are three actual sources I'll be mentioning today, but on the slide will be IMS. If we look at IMS, the Philippine market is roughly about £500 million pesos, which translates to about 8 million pounds, growing 2% annually. Looking at our own private data for medical devices in Zwillig Pharma, this number is actually closer to 25 million. And if we look at syndicated data on medical devices such as BMI, it's closer to 230 million. So it really depends on which source of information you look at. The market will vary. Also, there's a caveat to this, because I know of a lot of distributors who deal in medical devices who are not submitting any information to the syndicated data sources. Okay, so if you would notice, the top 10 companies would still be multinationals such as Bayer, Roche, Menarini, Novo Nordisk, Brown, and the like. Categories would be contrast media. We also have diagnostic tests, insulin devices, pregnancy and ovulation testing, etc. So in summary, hospital growth will still continue as large listed retail companies continue to expand their footprint. The government focuses on encouraging more healthcare infrastructure, especially in primary care, also outside of the greater cities. Government increased funding for universal healthcare, driven by SINIFAX, gambling money from the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, as well as the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office. Primary care will continue to grow and will drive wider access, complement the limited number of hospitals. And there is a growing trend in use of digital technology for patient adherence, inventory tracking, dose ordering, telehealth, and health information. A little about Zwillig Pharma. Zwillig Pharma is a Philippine company of Swiss national ownership. The Zwillig Pharma Corporation is 97 years young in the Philippines and was established long ago, first in the distribution of food items, jewelry, and the like, and they transitioned through the years into pharmaceuticals and devices. We have 1,600 employees. We have 4 national distribution centers, whole chain capacity of about 1,500 pallets, and ambient temperature and cold store, ambient temperature storage capacity of 50,000 pallets. We ship to over 22,000 customer points. Currently, we also offer services such as patient adherence programs we run for our partners. Currently, we have 9,000 patients enrolled in these programs, focusing on patient education and health, oncology, and others. Clinical trial management. So far this year, we've distributed about 65,000 kits. We have 6,500 pallets for our sachet divisions in the warehouse. We reach about 4,500 stores for our trade marketing programs. An online pharmacy that deals with roughly about 1,000 pesos per transaction, which translates to about 16 British pounds per transaction. And so far this year, we've conducted mass vaccination programs affecting or reaching out to over 200,000 patients so far. So Zunich Pharma is a trusted company in the Philippines, and we represent over 80% of all multinational pharmaceutical business in the country. So thank you very much, and that's the end of my presentation, short presentation. And I think we shall be ready for your question and answer portion.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Joel, for that very succinct and informative presentation. Thank you so much. Now we go to the question and answer. We have here 4 questions sent. We have Engineer Cecilia on the other line to also join the Q&A. I think the first question is addressed to Dr. Cecilia. The question is, can we directly participate in government procurement of medical devices, i.e. supplies, or do we need a local partner like a distributor?
In terms of procurement, that is not within our jurisdiction. It depends on the company or the hospital who is conducting the bid. But I know for government transactions, there should be a local representative, except if that the procurement will be under projects or aids from different international organizations.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Engineer. I think the second question can be answered by any of the speakers. What are the most in-demand medical device products in the country or in the Philippines? So let's start first. Engineer Cecilia, what are the most in-demand medical device products in the country?
Okay, if I will be looking into the different products that are being registered right now, I think what is in demand is those of the laboratory. These are the blood collection tubes, the syringes, and the different test kits with the different diseases like those with Zika virus, dengue test kits. So these are the common requests either for certificate of exemption or certificate of product registration.
Right. Thank you very much. Would you like to add that?
Yes, for the data available at IMS, the audience can reference the top category would be agents for imaging, either for urographs or for imaging such as CT scans and MRI, followed by diagnostic tests and insulin devices. So I think those are the top 3.
All right, thank you very much. Our third question we have here from Rosalind Rivera. Do we have to register a medical device which should be used for clinical trial? we have to register a medical device which will be used for clinical trial. I think that's for you again, Engineer Cecilia.
No, no. If it's only for clinical trials, what they need to get is approval from the ethics committee where the product is being, where the trials will be conducted. However, it is not required yet to register devices for clinical trials.
All right, thank you very much. The next question, how much is the indicative cost for us to obtain certification or license or in order to meet the regulatory requirements of FDA? How much is the indicative cost for us to obtain certification, license, or for us to meet the regulatory requirements of FDA?
Okay. If this will just be covering the different fees for the FDA, no? For the local distributors importers, the initial application costs you about 4,400 plus 10% legal research fund, and which is valid for 1 year. And for the renewal, it is 8,000 plus 10% legal research fund. Now, for the product registration, the initial application per product is 1,500 pesos plus 10% legal research fund, and the renewal will be 5,000 pesos valid for 5 years. The initial is valid only for 1 year. However, if you are selling in vitro diagnostic products, there are some in vitro that requires performance testing prior to approval. So that is a different fee to be paid directly to the different reference laboratory of the FDA. Thank you.
All right, we have more questions coming in. Thank you very much, Engineer. The next question, I think this is for Dr. Joel. Can Sterilization be a local partner of Philippine companies wanting to export medical devices? What are your priority items or products?
The answer to that is definitely yes. Really, it's able to handle your requirements for exportation to the Philippines. As for priority items, there's quite a list that we can go through. I'm willing to look at your list of what you're able to provide and give you comments on priority if you wish.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll just send the list to the one who sent this question. The next question, who is primarily responsible for the registration of disposable medical devices in the Philippines? The original manufacturer, the exporter, who does the packing and sterilization in UK, or the importer in the Philippines? That question came from David Earp. I'll repeat the question. I think this is for you again, Engineer. Who is primarily responsible for the registration of disposable medical devices in the Philippines? The original manufacturer, the exporter, who does the packing and sterilization in UK, or the importer in the Philippines?
Okay, registrations are being done by the companies in the Philippines. So with that answer, for the registration, it should be the importer in the Philippines.
All right. Thank you very much. So Dr. Joel would like to add.
Yes, as we offered registration also as a service. So it's importation, warehousing, delivery, collection, and sales and marketing. So it's a one-stop shop for anyone who is interested.
That's great. That's great. We will provide the contact details of both Engineer Cecilia and Dr. Joel. So if any of you would like to connect with them, feel free. The second to the last question, how long does it take for product certification? Engineer Cecilia, I think this is again yours.
Okay, for the certificate of product registration, so we have two certificates being issued right now. One is the mandatory certificate of product registration. This is for all registrable medical devices. So we're giving 180 calendar days, provided that all the documents are complete. However, if there will be deficiencies in your documentations, we will issue a notice of deficiency wherein the company is given 90 days to comply the deficiency.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question, Peter. Last question, finally, we have the last question now. For imported items that will be used at minimal amount in the clinic, do they have to be registered prior to use? For imported items that will be used at minimal amount in the clinic, do they have to be registered for prior to use?
Yes, all medical devices that will be used in the Philippines should be registered if they are registrable products.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Cecil, for answering that question.
You're welcome.
We don't have any other question in our chat room. Doctors and Engineer Cecilia, thank you very much for answering those questions and for your time. Dr. Joel, thank you as well for sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. Before we close this webinar, just a quick announcement. We will also have another webinar in January focusing on Philippine retail. So please watch out for the announcement or details of that event. Also, I'd like to pitch that the British Chamber, we are the trade support team. So as I mentioned previously, we are the delivery partner of British Embassy Manila. So for any of you, especially the British companies joining our webinar today, that are keen to find a local distributor or partner, we're happy to provide market introduction service for you. Feel free to contact me, the project manager, or Patricia, my colleague, so we can send you more details. That's it for today. Once again, thank you so much for joining our webinar. And to those who are in the UK, good morning, enjoy your day. To those in the Philippines, have a great evening. Engineer Cecilia, once again, thank you so much. And Dr. Joel, thank you very much. Good day.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Joel.